In this video, we're going to go over how to round decimals to a specific place value. So in this example, we're going to round each of these decimals to the tenths place. So in order to accomplish this, the very first thing we're going to do is familiarize ourselves and understand decimal place value. Please watch the decimal place value video if you haven't already. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my decimal between the ones and the tenths place. And then I'm going to follow that up with the numbers. Now for this, we don't have to think about this yet. We're going to do another example in a little bit. We're just going to think about this and put that into our place value chart. And then from there, we're going to say, okay, what is the direction or sentence asking me to round to? And in this case, it's the tenths. So I'm going to find the tenths place and then find the number in the tenths place. And I tell the kids to put a little circle or square around that number. So we are going to round this number to either one up or staying the same. We'll go over that in a second, but this is the number that we're focusing on. Now, in order to round this number, we need to look at the bully behind this number. That's what I call it. So this number back here is being a bully. And we're going to look at this number and determine if that bully is going to shove this number up or if it backs off and leaves it alone. So we might say, or you might have heard the rules, 5 above, give it a shove, 4 and below, either let it go or leave it alone. So if we're rounding to the tenths, we've identified that the 6 is in the tenths. We're going to look at the bully behind the 6. It's a 7, and we're going to determine, is 7 above the number 5? Is it the number 5 or above? Or is it the number 4 or below 4? So we know that the number 7 is above the number 5. That means it's going to be a bully, and it's going to shove this 6 up one number. So the 6 becomes a 7. Now, the important thing here is that we're not finished until we add back in our decimal and make sure we don't have to add in any other numbers. Now that these numbers have all been used and this number is at the back, we don't really need these numbers anymore. So our answer could be 0.7, or sometimes kids like to say, okay, there were 3 numbers in this decimal up here, so I'd like there to be 3 numbers down here. So instead of a 7 and a 1 here, I'm going to put a 0 and a 0. So we have the 7 in the hundredths place, bumping the 6 up in the tenths place to the number 7. And honestly, let's change this number out too, just to get it better. Like, let's just make it 5. The same rule would apply for the 5, right? We're rounding to the tenths place, the 6. We're looking at the 5. The 5 is 5 and above, so it's going to give this number a shove, and it's going to shove it up to the number 7. So our answer is either 0.7, 7 tenths, or, like I said, sometimes kids, they want to do this. They want to tack these numbers on to the end, and that's not rounding. That's a whole new decimal, right? Rounding is an estimate. It's a close numerical answer to your original number. So if kids try to add on these numbers back to the end, I'll say, oh, nope. If you want there to be 3 digits like in the regular one, you have to add the zeros onto the back. So in this next example, we are going to look at one that is not 5 and above. So again, we're rounding to the tenths. I'm going to find the tenths. The 6 is in the tenths. I'm going to look at its behind bully. It's a 3. I'm going to follow that rule. Is the 3 the number 5 or above? And do I need to give this number a shove? Or is the 3 the number 4 or below, and we're going to leave it alone? In this case, the 3 is below the number 4. It's not strong enough. It's not powerful enough to bump up that 6. So it's going to leave it alone. It's not going to mess with it. And thus, the 6 stays the same, unharmed by the number 3. And again, we don't want them to do this. We don't want that, right? We can say, okay, the answer is just 0.6. Or if you want there to be 3 numbers, it's 0.6, and then we tack those zeros onto the back. And then the same thing would go for if we were rounding to any other place value. So instead of the tenths, if I was asking you to round to the hundredths, right? We do 0.671, and let's pretend we're rounding to the hundredths now. So we would square our hundredths if that's what the directions were asking us to round to. We'd look to its behind bully. We'd follow our rule of 5 and above, give it a shove, or 4 and below, let it go. 1 is below 4, so instead of shoving him up, he's just going to leave him alone. He's not going to do too much to him. And that then means that the 7 stays the same. The 6 stays because it's in front of the 7, and then the decimal goes back. And again, the numbers back here don't matter anymore. We can either drop them off, or if they want to make it 3 digits, they can put a 0. The hardest thing for kids when we have we're rounding to the hundredths or even to the thousands is the fact that they have to remember to put this number back in front. A lot of kids will just go, oh, the number's 0.7. But it's not 0.7, right? Because sevens is in the hundreds place. If they were trying to make it 0.7, they would be putting the 7 in the tenths place, and that's not what we rounded to. It has to be 0.67. So that is how you round decimals using our rounding rules.